Okay, so this is the third part of talking about chickenpox. And in this part, we're going to talk about three different things. We're going to talk about something called breakthrough varicella. Remember, varicella is the name of the virus that causes chickenpox. Then we're going to talk about shingles. And then we're going to talk about something called Reyes Syndrome. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. And yes, that's Reyes. It's pronounced Reyes. It's by a Danish doctor. So breakthrough varicella is very simple. Okay, and in breakthrough varicella, it's when a person who got the vaccine gets chickenpox. Gets chickenpox. Okay, and usually this is pretty mild. So it's usually pretty mild. Mild, and they get a rash. Okay, the chickenpox rash. Okay, and then shingles. You've probably heard of shingles. If you recall, we said that chickenpox likes to go and hide in the dorsal root ganglion. So after the chickenpox virus goes into hiding, it can become active again. So it can become active again. Okay? This can be due to stress or lowered immune system. So if someone's under a lot of stress, they can get shingles. Which stress can actually cause a lowered immune system. Okay? So this causes the virus to become active again. These can cause the virus to become active again. So it's kind of like, I always make the analogy, it's kind of like a prison. So imagine the white blood cells are the prisoners, and they're working, not the white blood cells, imagine the virus is like the prisoners, and they're working out and everything for years, and then you have the prison guards, and the prison guards just, they don't work out as much, and they just become older, and eventually what happens is the prison guards get old, and then the prisoners can actually break out of the prison because they've been staying in shape. Okay? So the rash in shingles, or the virus, is going to travel along a peripheral nerve. So a peripheral nerve is any nerve that is not in the brain or spinal cord. And if you remember, we said this is in the dorsal root ganglion. So it's basically, most of the time, it's just going to come right down along the chest, along a peripheral nerve. Travels, oh my God, I wrote this twice. Travels along a peripheral nerve. Okay? It's usually a sensory nerve. So, of course, if it's affecting a sensory nerve, what do sensory nerves do? They sense things. So if it's a sensory nerve, then what's going to happen is it's going to be painful, okay? It's usually on one side of the body. Okay, so it's usually on one side of the body. It causes a burning or stinging pain. Okay, and I'm going to put right here, it's actually the rash is on one side of the body. Okay, so we get this burning, stinging rash on one side of the body. If someone has shingles, they can actually give chickenpox to kids because it's the same virus. Okay, unless the kids had the vaccination. All right, it can cause visual problems or paralysis. Okay, because again, it's affecting nerves. All right, and if it persists for months, it is called post-herpetic. So remember, herpes causes this. Post-herpetic or herpetic neuralgia. Algia means pain. Neuro means nerve. So this is nerve pain. Okay. So it's nerve pain. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to cover is something called Reyes Syndrome. And like I said, this is actually called Reyes Syndrome because it was discovered by a Danish doctor. So it's called Reyes Syndrome. Okay, it's a complication from chickenpox. And what happens is, usually what happens is when someone has chickenpox, they have a fever, so they take aspirin. The aspirin in kids can actually affect them. So a few days after the chickenpox infection, after the initial chickenpox infection has receded or decreased. The person starts to vomit and show signs of brain dysfunction. So they have trouble thinking, and things such as that. Of brain dysfunction. Okay. And then what'll happen is they can actually become combative or they have extreme drowsiness. Now, I actually knew a girl when I worked in the grocery store, and she was in 8th grade, and I'll never forget. It was New Year's Eve of 1981, going into 1982, and I got a call from my friend, and the girl's name was Karen Johnson. She used to bring me lunch and stuff like that occasionally. I was like 19 years old. I was 1 year out of high school, not even a year. And she was in 8th grade, and she used to come into the store and talk to me and things such as that. And what happened was I got a phone call from my friend, and he said, "Did you hear what happened to Karen?" And I said, "No, what happened?" And he said that she died. And so what happened was Karen had gotten sick on December 22nd, and she was put in the hospital, and December 27th she passed away. And so when I found out what happened, she had gotten Reyes syndrome. She had been taking aspirin. I don't know if she had chickenpox, but she had been taking aspirin, and she got Reyes syndrome, and unfortunately ended up passing away. So, and like I said, she was in 8th grade.